And after this, we will be taking our lunch recess and closed session. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
You have 15
I'm actually
minutes.
sharing my time with John Hargrove.
Certainly.
I have some photographs that are on there, but is it possible to just scroll through them? They're not really, they're just teeth photos and things like that. So thank you very much for having me. I'm here today on behalf of Dr. Kimberly Ventre and Dr. Jett. Dr. Ventre practices medicine, is with patients today. Dr. Jett is a professor teaching environmental science. Jeff and John were trainers at SeaWorld's Orlando flagship, working closely with the orcas I will describe. They've published peer-reviewed research papers in a university textbook chapter on orca captivity. I'm Kimberly Ventre, an entrepreneur with a master's degree in urban planning. I'm a California resident and a California voter. We're all three volunteers and give our time to conservation for free. I only mention this because it speaks to our motivation. There are many paid industry representatives or employees who obviously support SeaWorld's policies and practices. Jeff, John, and I are completely independent. We want to share some of the stories SeaWorld does not publicize. None of these stories will be made better by building bigger pools. During Dr. Ventre's time at SeaWorld, he found the killer whale can Duke, or Duke, to be particularly tragic. Like famous captive Tilikum, Duke weighed 12,000 pounds and had a collapsed dorsal fin. Like Tilikum, he was less maneuverable and subdominant. Big subdominant and with no mother and no status, he was bullied, raked, and beaten up. Tormented in his captive world, Duke would beat his head against the stage with such force you could feel the impact of it during the shows. His jaws would bleed regularly. Duke had no viable teeth left from grinding them on the walls. My brother describes applying black zinc oxide to his back and dorsal fin as his skin would blister from lying in the Florida sun. During the night, hundreds of mosquitoes would land on Duke's back, biting his blistered skin until he decided to move and swim below the surface. Another orca, Taku, was captive-born, but no less tragic. As Jeff watched Taku grow, he noticed that even at almost 3 years old, Taku was still nudging his mom, Katina, for milk and sometimes nursing. Unfortunately for Taku and mom, Katina, when he became sexually mature, he impregnated her, producing a daughter who was also his sister in 2006. This inbred orca, Nalani, was created by the confines of SeaWorld tanks. It sent a shockwave through SeaWorld, and Taku was quickly shipped away from the only family he ever knew, dying just 1 year later. Duke and Taku both had similar deaths in unnatural environments away from their families. In '90, Duke died of St. Louis virus encephalitis. In 2007, at the age of 14, Taku died of West Nile virus. Both of these viruses were transmitted by mosquito bites and are typically not fatal. These viruses only attack the brain of victims with compromised immune systems. Both Duke and Taku had teeth rot, gum disease, and were chronically medicated. Their tragic deaths are not featured in SeaWorld's literature. Dr. Jett tells similar stories. Watching Winnie, a very sweet, docile female, being continuously harassed, chased, and beaten up was heartbreaking for him. He watched her cower in the corner or come out of the water onto the slide-out areas to escape attacks. During one event, she was raked and bleeding so badly that the entire pool system was darkened with her blood. As a result, the next show had to be canceled. John also describes listening to Goodrum emit distressing vocals so loud they could be heard everywhere through the park, even the employee parking lot. Shamu shows were canceled during her chilling vocalizations, which she would repeat unchanged for hours on end. Gudrun died from internal hemorrhaging after SeaWorld vets manually pulled a dead fetus out of her body. Hearing the details of how she died and how long it took her to die is terribly painful. Orca Nayar died a slow death after 2 years of being force-fed her food and medications. Nayar's mom, Gudrum, and the other whales had little to do with her as she was disabled and permanently separated from them. Nayar's situation, like the others mentioned, made John's view of killer whale captivity made him view captivity in a completely different light. In terms of care, John and Jeff were always concerned by the number and amount of drugs the whales were given. It seems natural to ask, what is it about captivity that requires so much medical intervention? We think that the dental teeth damage and drilling procedures that occur at places like SeaWorld is probably the most tragic consequence of captivity, and I know that Dr. Visser went over that. Exploitation and marginalization within the industry extends to low-wage employees, most without benefits. Injured trainers are afraid to speak up. Government administrators are pressured into changing reports or citations, not to mention the awful conditions for many other animals. We hope these stories and voices are not shadowed down by corporate money and slick PR. The Florida-based animal circus and captivity industry has fallen out of favor and is in major decline. As of 2014, only 21% of Americans actually favor captivity. SeaWorld has announced plans to expand to China and the Middle East, where laws and views are more lenient. The expansion globally will only encourage more captives worldwide. SeaWorld's financials showed huge debt, multiple shareholder and class action lawsuits, yet they continue to spend enormous amounts on lobbying and advertising. As attendance continues to drop, are local citizens going to be left bailing out this project? California leads the world in innovation, tech, green energy, genetics, aerospace. We should be seeking something better for our state, not propping up a dying industry with bigger pools. SeaWorld could be real heroes if they evolved into the 21st century and changed their business model. Today, let's seek the right side of history, be environmentally sound, transparent, cruelty-free, and uplifting, something all of California can be proud of. Blue world is old world. I urge you to vote no on this old world expansion.